In 2004, the average American home cost $220,000. That same year, Birdman spent double that, $500,000, just to change how he smiled. And here's what nobody talks about. That wasn't even close to the most expensive purchase he made that decade. When you picture hip-hop jewelry today, the heavy chains, the blinding grills, the watches that cost more than a starter home, every single one of those images traces back to one man sitting in New Orleans in the early 2000s, quietly making decisions that would redesign an entire culture's relationship with personal wealth. I've been going back through old Cash Money footage, checking auction records, and talking to people in the jewelry industry over the past few weeks, and I kept landing on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Birdman doesn't get the credit he actually deserves for what he built, and I don't mean the music, I mean the visual language of hip-hop wealth itself. The man literally changed how rappers smile. So today, I'm gonna walk you through every major piece in his collection. We're talking a portfolio that conservative estimates now put somewhere north of $60 million. And I want to make a specific argument along the way. This wasn't just spending. This was calculated brand positioning, executed with more precision than most Fortune 500 marketing departments could manage, by a kid from the 17th Ward who never went to business school. Brian Williams, known to everyone in the culture simply as Birdman, didn't grow up around money. He came out of the 17th Ward in New Orleans, co-founded Cash Money Records with his brother Ronald Slim Williams in 1991, and for years ran one of the most successful independent operations in music history, without anyone outside of the South really understanding what they had built. The Cash Money Universal Distribution Agreement from the late 1990s is the deal most people cite, reportedly $30 million up front and more. Importantly, the label retained ownership of its masters. That's the kind of structural advantage that turns a record label into a legacy institution, with Juvenile, Lil Wayne, and later Drake generating hundreds of millions in cumulative revenue. Birdman was operating with a level of financial freedom that most artists never see. But here's the part that I think gets missed entirely. He didn't wait until after the money came to start building the image. He was investing in high-end jewelry while Cash Money was still clawing its way up. That's not spending, that's positioning, and it's a distinction that changes everything about how you read the collection I'm about to break down. Most rappers buy jewelry to celebrate success. Birdman bought jewelry to construct the perception of success before the world had caught up to what he actually had. There's a reason every jeweler in the game wanted to work with him. He wasn't a customer, he was a billboard. Let me start with the most permanent decision in this entire collection, because I think it's the most revealing one. At some point in the early 2000s, Birdman flew to New York and sat down with one of the most exclusive dental jewelry specialists in the country. The result, platinum and 18-karat white gold permanent crowns set with Asher-cut diamonds across every tooth at a price tag of approximately $500,000. And I mean permanent. These don't come out after the photo shoot. What I find genuinely interesting about this specific piece is the psychology behind choosing permanence over flexibility. Most jewelry can be locked in a vault when the situation calls for it. Your grills cannot. It was a statement about commitment to identity. A literal fusion of the man and the brand, and it took 6 months of craftsmanship to complete. VS1 Clarity diamonds, custom platinum crowns fitted to his exact teeth, a specialized setting technique that most jewelers didn't even have the tooling to execute. The cultural ripple effect here is something I disagree with the common framing on. People talk about Paul Wall and Nelly and credit them with popularizing grills, but those are artists who popularized grills after Birdman had already demonstrated what permanent diamond work at this level looked like. He wasn't part of the grill trend. He created the ceiling that everyone else was reaching toward. By the time grill culture went mainstream around 2004 to 2005, he had been wearing his for years. Around 2005, Cash Money was entering what I'd call its second phase. Lil Wayne was becoming the most important rapper in America, and the label's revenue was accelerating in ways that even their most optimistic projections probably hadn't anticipated. This is when Birdman commissioned a Cuban link chain and matching bracelet set that totaled 1,000 grams, over 2 pounds of micro-paved diamond set links. The chain runs 26 inches, the bracelet is 8 inches, and when I say micro-pave, I mean there is no visible metal between the diamonds. Every link, every surface, completely covered. Over 500 hand-selected diamonds in the chain alone, with VS1 clarity or better, matched for color and cut. The setting work took more than 200 hours. The story behind the commission is telling. He saw a similar piece on another artist at an awards show and told his jeweler to make his bigger with more diamonds than anyone had ever put on a chain. Then he dropped $100,000 on deposit right there on the spot before specifications were even finalized. That's not someone shopping for jewelry. That's an executive making a market move. And this is where the infrastructure argument really kicks in. Before this set existed, Cuban chains in hip-hop were generally gold with maybe some diamond accents at the clasp. After Birdman started wearing this, the standard shifted. Today, you cannot exist as a credible hip-hop artist without a fully iced Cuban. He didn't just buy a chain. He redefined what a chain was supposed to be. In 2010, after Cash Money signed Drake and the label's revenue trajectory became something genuinely unprecedented for an independent operation, Birdman gave himself a present, an 18-karat rose gold hublet King Power with a black ceramic bezel, 48mm case, and diamond hour markers. I want to point something out here that doesn't get enough attention. In 2010, Hublot was not a hip-hop watch. Rolex was. Audemars Piguet was. But Birdman started wearing Hublot before the brand had any real presence in the culture, and within a few years it became one of the most recognizable luxury watch brands in the space. You could map this same arc onto almost every major purchase in this collection. He bought things that weren't cool yet, wore them in public, and then watched the market come to him. Here's where we cross into a different stratosphere. Around 2008, Jacob Arabo, Jacob the Jeweler, one of the most connected figures in the luxury timepiece world, personally contacted Birdman to offer him one of 12 Jacob Encoder 5 time zone watches ever made. 18-karat white gold case, bezel, and dial, invisibly set with matched baguette cut diamonds. Every surface covered. 800 hours of labor to produce. The invisible setting technique is worth explaining because it's genuinely remarkable from a craft standpoint. The diamonds are cut and calibrated so precisely that no metal is visible between them. The watch looks like it's carved from a single block of ice. Each baguette has to be individually matched for color, clarity, and exact dimension before it can be set. Getting this wrong by a fraction of a millimeter means starting over. Jacob called Birdman specifically because he understood the marketing reality. If Birdman wore this watch, every other significant artist would know it existed within weeks. At that point in hip-hop history, Birdman was essentially a distribution channel for taste. Two of these exist in the world. The other one belongs to Elton John. I think that single fact tells you more about where Birdman sits in the global luxury ecosystem than any net worth figure could. This isn't a rapper with an expensive watch. This is a person operating at a level of access where the inventory is literally 2 units, and he acquired his from a dealer in Miami during Art Basel weekend in 2009, after being told it wasn't for sale, by negotiating for several hours and ultimately paying in cash. The technical details are almost absurd. Over 200 carats of flawless diamonds set individually by hand. A moving dollar sign mechanism powered by a chop-hard engineered movement developed exclusively for this piece, requiring over 1,000 hours of total labor. The watch costs more than a Lamborghini Aventador and a Ferrari F8 combined. The Elton John comparison is the one I keep coming back to, because Elton John has been collecting rare objects for 50 years. Birdman acquired his equivalent at roughly 36 years old, coming out of New Orleans. Around 2011, Birdman walked into Avian & Company in Manhattan's Diamond District and said, in essence, "Find me the largest, rarest rubies available, set them in the most expensive configuration possible, and don't discuss the budget." The result was a collection of custom pendants featuring Burmese rubies, some of the most geologically rare gemstones on the planet, including a 30-karat centerpiece and a separate 20-karat Burmese red ruby, each surrounded by D-color flawless diamonds. This move mattered culturally because virtually every other artist at that time was still thinking in terms of diamonds only. Birdman went in a completely different direction, not because colored gems were trending, but specifically because they weren't. The 300+ hours of setting work on the primary piece alone reflects just how labor-intensive custom-colored gemstone work is. Each diamond surrounding the ruby has to be positioned to enhance the stone's natural color, not compete with it. Within a year of this collection becoming visible in the culture, other artists started incorporating colored stones, but none of them had pieces at this level of quality or rarity. The Burmese ruby market has become increasingly constrained due to international trade restrictions, which means pieces like these have actually appreciated significantly beyond their original commission price. The 15-karat black diamond ring and matching earring set is a 10-karat center stone surrounded by 5 additional carats, plus 2.5 carat black diamond earrings, is significant not because of its price, estimated between $200,000 and $400,000 for the set, but because of its timing. In 2012, black diamonds were genuinely niche. They have a visual characteristic that's different from white diamonds. Heavier, more architectural, almost industrial. And Birdman saw something in that contrast that the rest of the market hadn't articulated yet. By 2015, Jay-Z, Kanye, and Drake were all incorporating black diamonds. By 2020, it was standard. Every single time, Birdman identifies the next aesthetic frontier, plants his flag, and the rest of the culture spends years catching up to where he already was. The Raffaello and Company piece is harder to discuss in concrete terms because the firm genuinely does not disclose client information or piece specifications. What I can tell you is that the Billionaire's Row collection begins around $500,000, and the firm's client list consists of what you'd expect: sovereign wealth, inherited generational money, and a very small number of self-made individuals who've crossed a threshold of both taste and access that most people in the luxury market never reach. Birdman got an invitation to commission through his existing jeweler relationships. That matters. Raffaello doesn't advertise. You don't find them. They find you, or someone who already works with them. Vouches for you. The hand-rubbing gesture, the Birdman signature that became one of the most recognized physical expressions in all of popular culture, had to eventually become a pendant. And when it did, it was done at the level you'd expect. A diamond-covered replica of his actual hand, proportioned exactly, with every finger perfectly detailed and individually set. The Cuban link it hangs on is engineered specifically to support its weight without distorting. What this piece represents, more than any other in the collection, is the convergence of personal brand and physical object. It's not a nameplate. It's not a generic design. It's a three-dimensional replication of a gesture that Birdman had spent years making synonymous with himself. The moment it appeared in music videos and promotional materials, it became instantly decodable. You knew exactly who you were looking at and what that person represented. That is not accident. That is brand architecture executed at an extremely high level. Neshe. After my last video on celebrity investment portfolios, a lot of you pushed back on the idea that jewelry counts as a real investment. One comment that stuck with me came from @wealthwatcher_2026, who wrote, "Birdman's jewelry is just a depreciating flex. The second he bought it, he lost money. I actually spent 2 hours pulling Chopard auction records and Burmese ruby trade data to see if he's right. He's not, but the reason why is more interesting than a simple yes or no. Most jewelry does depreciate when you factor in resale friction, but Birdman's collection operates in a different category for 2 reasons. First, pieces from Chopard, Jacob & Co., and Raffaello & Company at this level of customization and rarity don't have a traditional resale market. They have collectors. The Chopard watch is literally a 2-unit item. There's no comparable sold price to depreciate against. Second, the Burmese ruby market has become dramatically more constrained since 2011 due to trade restrictions. Those pieces are worth meaningfully more today than when he commissioned them. The point isn't that this collection was primarily an investment vehicle. It clearly wasn't. The point is that Birdman was buying in categories where value tends to hold or appreciate, not splurging on depreciating assets. That's a distinction worth making. Here's where I'll go out on a limb, and I want you to remember this when we look back in 3 to 5 years. The luxury goods market has been experiencing something interesting heading into 2026. Post-pandemic enthusiasm for high-end spending has started to cool across some segments, particularly in the watch market, where secondary prices for brands like Rolex and Patek Philippe have come down significantly from their 2021 to 2022 peaks. But one-of-a-kind pieces with documented provenance and genuine cultural significance are going in the opposite direction. Birdman's collection, particularly the 2 pieces that exist in global edition sizes of 2 and 12, sits exactly in that second category. If this collection ever comes to auction, even partially, I believe it would generate prices that would reframe how the broader market thinks about hip-hop artifacts as collectibles. We've already seen what Kanye's Yeezys do at auction. We've seen what Michael Jordan's sneakers do. The physical objects associated with cultural inflection points carry a premium that has nothing to do with intrinsic material value. Birdman created more cultural inflection points in the jewelry space than any other single figure in the last 30 years. The collection isn't just diamonds and gold, it's documentation of a particular moment in American cultural history. And right now, I don't think anyone is pricing it that way. That's the bet I'd be making if I were advising whoever eventually has to value this. Not on the carats, on the story.